feel like every slide is purposeful when I was going through it. But we have a ton of questions for him today. So for to just begin to kind of start out, so the viewers out there know what you're about. What is the purpose and vision for your company, and ultimately, what is the value proposition that you're providing? You would say.
Thank you. Well, the vision is to help anyone, lawyers and non-lawyers, so anyone in the world, to really understand and read contracts in a few seconds. I mean, understanding contracts without reading them line by line. So it's augmenting non-lawyers into lawyers kind of thing, giving more power to the end user and saving time and money into lawyers. So that's the vision and the purpose that we do it is because I really believe that, for example, you and I, AC and Hans, right? We're meeting and we want to do something together. We shake hands, we agree verbally, but then of course we put something on paper. Well, that's where all the negotiation and contract and signature starts and back and forth. So I think the purpose is really to help and foster trust between people, because eventually if we agree verbally and shaking hands, we should have the same thing on paper in a matter of seconds. And that's going to be done also through blockchain in the future. But right now, we're not there yet. So we are still decoding PDFs and words, and that's why we're using SpeedLegal.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that's good. So, what would you say is kind of the problem you identified in the current marketplace right now? What is the big problem we're facing?
Founders, freelancer who currently are using ChatGPT or Google search to save, to find solutions about contracts. So the problem here is time. On average, it takes one afternoon to review a contract. It depends on the length. Time. So second part is money. As we know, billable hour is huge in the US, but also in other parts of the world. $500 to $12 per.
That's what I was going to say. I was paying $500 an hour, and you pay by the hour, guys, but not based on what they do. It is quickly. You can spend a lot of money very quickly. So.
True. So that's a major pain point. Is 10, 15K easy per month for a company who has just raised a price round, and then the knowledge gap. Like most of us are non-lawyers, and we still need to read and review contracts. So, solving that problem of knowledge gap. Yeah.
I appreciate you summarizing that for me. So number 3, what is your proposed solution for the company, and what is the channel of distribution you plan on doing to start with?
Cool. Yeah, so we have a 3-step solution. The first thing is understanding the contract, the document. And we believe that understanding contracts should be as easy as understanding and reading the nutrition facts on the back of our food. And we call it contract nutrition label. Okay. The second step is understanding the risks and how to push back on specific provision, and we call it red flag table. And the third part is understanding when and how to get out of the contract. So this is the solution we've built. We say it's kind of Grammarly for contract because it's super easy to use.
Yeah.
You upload the contract and we give you a risk score in terms of red flags, missing criteria, and green flags compared to the market standard. So if you don't have any reference, we use our market standard developed by a team of 10 attorneys, or the internal playbook of the company, the template that the company has.
I really like, and we're going to put this on slide, guys, so everybody can see it, but I really love the UI, the way, because let me ask you, this was a question I probably should ask at the beginning, but I'm going to ask it now. Are you guys do you have revenue coming in the door, or was all those, the monthly recurrent, was that just estimated, or we currently have money coming in the door?
Good question. So we had paid POCs in the previous version of the software, which was not what we have today. Since we pivoted last year, end of year and beginning of the new year, we gave access for free to this new Grammarly for contracts, and we are not collecting revenue. Actually, we are starting this week. We already have 10 paying customers, but it's small values, like probably $1,000 a year.
Yeah. You got to start. Because there's so much testing right now, right?
Correct. And actually, they're paying us with their contracts, which is one of the most valuable things, which is good data.
So they pay because I saw kind of your 3-tier model. So are they paying? Because I saw the kind of the freemium, that was the term you used. But in the 3 different models, is the next tier based on, you said, the amount of contracts or seats, or how do y'all plan on spacing out kind of the revenue model?
Very good question, I see. So it's volume based. It's based on the number of contracts and the number of pages. How complex is the contract? I like to make the comparison with a recharging an EV car. So you're going to pay by by the time you charge the car, the same
Okay.
you're going to pay by the time you use the AI. So how
Huh.
much AI you use, you pay based on how much AI you use. AI is not cheap. So,
Yeah.
um, and secondly, we have a SaaS model, which is if you have, and I have some premium features like exporting Word documents, getting reminders on your contracts, asking questions to a lawyer, using the Ask Our AI functionality. So depending on the features, you also have a SaaS component like Amazon Prime, basically.
Yeah. I have a question on the solution. So I saw that you're actually going to be able to prove the content accuracy over time. And I'm curious how that works. And I'm guessing it's with AI, but how are you actually, I saw the numbers actually go up over time. How are you improving that content accuracy?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's why we are a legal tech company. In order to be accurate, you need to have someone expert in the subject matter, which are lawyers in our case. So we have a 10 people legal team, and we are using internal metrics such as red flags, missing criterion, green flags, and specific clause, subclause, and provisions concept tags, and therefore
Hmm.
metrics on each of those data points. And then we communicate with the AI team, the science team, and we make sure that the prompts, the classification models, the name entity extractions, they're all working for the highest level of accuracy.
Sure.
We prefer to give some false positives because we prefer to give more results than missing an important result.
Yeah.
But eventually we want to be as accurate as possible.
Yeah, I like that how you define that where you're really right now you're trying to just get the contracts done, but I think it's really smart. I love the way we're going to go through the money allocation, how part of the funds are actually used for that legal team because the biggest thing is you could grow this thing, but if you get to a point where it's missing key things and your clients are mad, then you're losing clients, and then
Correct.
you're getting a lot in the door, but then your fallout's bad on the turnover, right? And that's not what we
Totally
want.
agree.
Yeah.
That's very smart. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think a
Agree.
lot of people think the most expensive part, and I'm sure Hans knows this, but the most expensive part is acquiring a customer. It's so expensive to acquire one, so it's better just to keep that customer rather than constantly having to get new customers. So I think that's just a key point for our entrepreneurs out there to learn.
Very good. Very good
Um,
point. Yeah.
so on your, oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I was saying actually also in the legal market, uh, once they give you their contract, they are a bit depending on the. I'm talking about SMBs and maybe enterprise level, which is not something we are currently focusing on. But I've seen that in the past, they're a bit more resistant on switching vendors because
Mhm.
they give you so much data, and so there is a good kind of locking, kind of low churn pattern. But as you said, you need to deliver the result, otherwise, doesn't work.
It's definitely a balance, and you're in startup mode right now, and we're gonna get through it. But I'm trying not to waste time here because I know we got a limited time. On your product roadmap, what are the plugins and integrations that you're actually gonna? I saw you got to have plugins and integrations. I was kind of
Yeah,
confused on what that meant. Could you explain what plugins and integrations you're referring to?
yeah, and actually that connects also to the question you asked about the go-to-market. So right now we are really focused on content marketing, meaning we do blog posts 2-3 times a week. Not just AI generated, but there is a human actually making sure the content is good.
Sure.
Social media, and the next step for us is going to be the plugins or integrations with the browser, with Word documents, Google Docs. So having SpeedLegal
Hmm.
opening directly when you need it without you needing to trigger the acquisition of the contract. So pretty streamlined. And the third part is continuing with partner-driven sales. We're already talking to VCs, portfolio companies, accelerators, and creating our startup program for companies who want to start use it for free and then graduate into paying customers. So that's kind of what the go-to-market in the future, and also onboarding an enterprise sales team as we develop a more vetted product throughout the next few months. Um, Plugins. So yeah, I think you answered your question.
Yeah.
So browser, emails, document readers and processors are among the ones.
I think one of my favorite out of those that you said is partnerships. I think partnerships are one of the best things you can get because again, so if you can benefit whoever else, they have a whole other audience. A lot of times when you start up mode, the biggest problem you have is you don't have customers, you don't have access to anybody really seeing, getting outreach. Establishing partnerships, even if early on maybe the contract, using the contract is not super advantageous to your company early, over time, just even getting that initial audience is better than letting your startup fail because you're not willing to give up. Maybe, I don't know if you do percentage of revenue or however you structure it. You know what I'm saying? Partnerships
Yes.
are huge. And I think a lot of people need to not be as greedy and just really lean into that. Okay, so and this is my last kind of question for the solution, what are AI agents for contract negotiations and how they actually work when it says AI agents?
Yeah. So AI agents is basically a 360 automation from end to end.
Okay.
I think, for example, for contract negotiation would be you give to the Copilot agent to do all the negotiation for you. You just tell them the objective of the negotiation in terms of probably price and deadlines and payment terms and dates. We're not there yet. At least SpeedLegal is not doing that. That's
Right.
the vision. We are focusing on the redlining, which is the key part of the back and forth via email usually. But then doing the emails, it's going to be the easy part because it's much easier to generate an email than redline legal content.
Right.
So in my vision, maybe another entrepreneur has another answer, but my vision of negotiation is really having an agent do the back and forth via email, via potentially messages,
That's
phone
really
calls.
cool. That's really
And
cool. Yeah, because I had a conversation. We've had a couple of AI entrepreneurs on here, and I think we're finally the market's starting to grasp the actual use cases for AI because it was such a buzzword for a lot of companies, especially the 2019, 2020, 2021 when anything with AI was getting tons of money thrown at it, and you've seen a lot of those companies just completely fall off because truthfully they weren't AI. They just kind of had that buzzword. But I feel like we're finally getting a grasp of the actual use cases of AI. And I feel like the actual use of, not just, entering some text and it just gives you basically what Google would give you, but it's actually a conversation where I really like what you're doing because you can communicate with the bot and explain what like you said, your objectives are. It'll work through, which initially you're trying to get the user to do that, but it's still saving them time. But then eventually I'm guessing it's very automated where you can really just communicate with it and it'll edit your document based on your feedback.
Correct. That's correct.
That's super cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. That answers some of my questions there. In terms of competitor analysis, so you've answered this a little bit, but just to kind of go into detail, what do you exactly mean by the internal legal team, and how can you provide immediate feedback while competitors can't? I saw that you kind of what SpeedLegal provides is that immediate feedback, while your competitors are not doing that. I think it was slide. It was on the competitor analysis slide. But I'm curious, how are you able to provide the immediate feedback? Is it just having a really solid team that's, on the call 24/7? Like, how is that immediate feedback working exactly?
Yeah. So when I say immediate feedback is about a real human on a chat. So we have two ways: the AI generated solution, and then we have a human in the loop. That it's a premium service that you can interact with if you want to have a human actually checking the results of the AI. And we tested a couple of solutions out there, and it was taking up to 24 hours to hear back from them.
Okay.
Well, actually, it was closer to the end of 24 hours, and that's why on that slide we put that we give immediate feedback because we tend to have people around the globe, India, Europe, and US. So we managed to cover almost the 24-hour shift.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're saying it's 24 hours with competitors. How quick are you going to be?
A couple of hours usually.
Wow.
It depends.
Okay.
Sometimes minutes, but we are not a huge team yet, so
right.
I would say up to a couple of hours. Yeah.
And it depends on the document too. I'm guessing, right? Depending on what
you
upload.
The AI is giving you the results right away, 2 minutes,
sure.
depending on the length. But then, again, if it's there, we give you an answer. If we don't support a contract type, like we don't do financing documents yet, and we don't do financing documents for now.
Yeah.
We basically tell you at the beginning when you upload your contract, this is an unsupported contract. So we are not going to actually give you any AI and not even any human supported at the moment.
I got you. That makes sense. And it's again, you in the startup mode, you need to focus as niche as possible because you can't spread yourself too thin. I mean, you are trying to survive, trying to make money now, and then we'll worry about everything else. So
I agree.
I love that. I love that. It's because I think a lot of people too in software is like, I want to build the next Google. Well, Google didn't start off as Google where they have YouTube and they have Google and they have, I mean, they have tons of different ways to make money, right? But it's evolved into that. So get as niche as you can, solve one really big problem, which he knows he's staying in his lane, solving this one big problem, and then who knows where you end up, right? You can end up somewhere
Sure.
completely different.
Start with a niche and then expand to others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't do it opposite. Do not do it opposite. Most people want to go real big. So in terms of the market potential, the TAM, SAM, and SOM. I don't know if I say that. I always say TAM. So it may be said differently, but explain a little bit of that. What's the market potential for this product you see U.S. nationwide? I see you got a slide for that. We're gonna put up on screen.
Yeah, I mean, the slide is basically meaning is a top-down approach. We have both top-down and bottom-up. Top-down taking a statistic out there in the market, which is about 373 billion is the legal services in the US spent outside right now in outside counsel. So that's something we take as a TAM. I believe that it's bigger than that, meaning that we are actually helping people who are not currently we cannot afford legal advice. So there is an untapped market that it's not, accounted for in that
because
number.
you're building a new.
So
I got you. I get you.
A new segment, like people who didn't raise money yet. Probably they're doing things with free resources online. So probably having a low tier like $20, $50, $100, they can still pay us instead of paying $1,000 or $500. So I think there is more, there's a market that is not accounted for in that number. So that's my idea of TAM is closer than 373 billion. It's probably closer back of the napkin. It's closer to 1 trillion, which is, can be debatable. The second part is the SAM, the service addressable market, which is more on the focus side of who is our customer base, and it's small, medium businesses. We calculated that using 5.9 million businesses in the US that have less than 25 million in revenue, and they spend on average 13K per year in legal services. If you do the math, that's 79 billion. And if you want to go even more specific and down the target market, the SAM, obtainable market, is 5% of the SAM, which is our target. So it's just something we decide to target in the next 5 to 10 years.
I like the idea that you're creating a new market because, like I said, if with my even small startup that I would have done, I would have paid for something like this because it's so important to get these contracts right. So I love that you're addressing too. That is like there's another point of this sector that's not included here that could still be a bigger market that we don't even know about yet, right?
Yes, is a good way. Probably we could improve the slide, making that like a bigger piece of the pie. But it's also something you can tell to investors or stakeholders when you present. Like, it's huge, but keep in mind, this is the surprise kind of slide.
Yeah. I like that. You could include that. The reason why I do this too is I like to hear what you're saying about it too. I like to hear the entrepreneurs because sometimes it's not on the slide, but when you're pitching, you're including it. So you're very thorough though in your docs.
So by the way, there are two types of decks, I guess. One is that you present and one that you send to investors. And actually there is one that you use as a teaser before meeting the investor, but there are many also, of course. Every entrepreneur maybe, and you have your own your ideas as well, AC. So the one that you're seeing, I believe the one I sent you basically is the longer version. And it's the one that I actually mostly present and send as a follow-up of my presentation. So I try to be more in depth with the data, but if I were to send it actually without presentation, I would need to put more information because they don't know the background, right? So there are many things that we say on the call that are not in the slide.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you going over that. So next, we're gonna the next point is revenue model. So what you've kind of gone through the 3 tiers. Is the plan to just have a really base level model? You said even down to $100 a month. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah. So this is more like a ballpark number telling where we're now, and basically the ACV is going to increase. The average contract value, annual contract value is going to increase. And right now it's really as low as $10 because, as I mentioned before, we have like on demand where you pay for charging credits on SpeedLegal to have the contract to work, the AI to work for you. And you also have a subscription-based model that gives you discount on charging your account with more credits. So right now you can really go and analyze an NDA for $13 if it's a 5-page NDA. And you can pay $40 for a 40-page contract, MSA, for example. So That number is a ballpark,
I
and
got you.
the target is to increase it as we target bigger customers.
Of course, because their contracts have more pages, going to be harder, and so over time that
More
contract value.
more
Yeah,
volume. Yes, more
yeah,
volume.
that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Okay, yeah, your revenue model is very thorough, so I don't have to go through that. In terms of the marketing and actually the investment and team stuff is where I have a lot of questions, and we're going to about to get into
Okay.
that. But real quickly, just the evidence of success. So I want to kind of give you a compliment here. It's awesome that you're including feedback from obviously real customers that are using it. Explain more about the actual current customers who are using it. What is some feedback you're getting that you're already now adding to, kind of the beta and the product that you've seen recently?
Yeah, good point. So the feedback that we pull up on the slide are feedback from the previous iteration of the software, which was geared toward a bit bigger company, more toward the 300 to 500 employees,
Okay.
and they were using SpeedLegal also as a contract management and storage platform. So to be transparent, in the new slides, we don't have like the latest comments on the latest platform.
Sure.
But to answer your question, the latest comments we're getting feedback are basically they're very happy for the fact that it's the beautiful UI. They really like the fact that it's easy to use.
Right.
It feels like Grammarly or something very easy to use. You don't need to prompt engineer. It's just understanding can I accept it or not, and we tell you why it's relevant for you. So UI UX ease of use is very important, and the fact that you can do things that you would have done using Google and ChatGPT
Yeah.
in a much shorter time. Those are the key advantages.
Well, I don't mean to skip ahead. I'm curious if this is because I have a question later, but I think it's relevant now. So I saw that in the initial kind of deck I seen, and I know in the entrepreneur stuff it changes constantly and it changes based on the feedback you're getting and all that. I saw you actually lowered your funding amount. Did you lower the funding amount because your strategy changed, or did you lower the funding amount? It sounds like maybe was it a strategy change that lowered that, or what? Give me your thought process behind that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, right now, given that there is a lot of AI companies out there,
Uh huh.
investors, from my feedback, maybe if you talk to others, they have other feedback.
Sure.
But what I've heard from my conversations is that they want to see more proof of success, which is more
Yeah.
revenue. Even if we have increased usage, which is great, and which we're seeing a very good increase in usage, it's not enough for some of them. That's why I'm thinking, instead of going to VCs that want to have like it's a higher bar to get
Yeah.
there in terms of revenues, we're gonna do a small round and get to revenues in the next 6 to 8 months,
Yeah.
or maybe 12, depending on how fast we can go there. So that's why I'm raising less.
Yeah.
You saw a slide it was 3 mil. Now we're raising more between 500K in one.
Right.
Still
Yeah,
on
I
a
was going to
safe
ask.
potential.
I appreciate you saying that because I was going to ask if you could share the difference. And yeah, you mean you're right. We're looking at the data right now. We're seeing that right now VC investing is like an all time. It's very low right now, especially that we've seen over the last couple years. But family
Mm.
offices and angel investments are actually way up. So family offices is a really interesting kind of
Mm.
zone now where that might be a good focus to kind of look at whether it was VCs like 3 or 4 years ago. Now it's not. Now it's you're looking at the families and the angels, and in that
Interesting.
$500,000 range, I think you could really find a good family office that would invest with you. I think that would be my target in that, and especially in that range too. Um,
Yeah, and lawyers. We are
True.
seeing big, partners at big law firms. They have money,
Yeah.
and they believe the future of law is going to change, and they want to be part of it. We already have lawyers from DLA Piper, Merriam Brown, and Oracle invested. So I
Okay.
think it makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because I know you can raise from a bunch of different people. Yeah, is the plan kind of good to go through lawyers, like just to give each, maybe ask for 20 to 50,000 from each? Is that the potential? Or
That's the target in terms of check. And yeah, I mean, to be transparent, people who can bring value on the cap table,
uh huh.
like expert, like lawyers, but even serial entrepreneurs, uh, past founders or current founders are, welcome on the cap table, and we are currently prioritizing them.
Right. And so I'm guessing those angel advisor slide, and we'll show it on screen, guys, if it's good. Those are some of
Yeah.
just some people that's put up money and just advising the company. Explain kind of their roles because
Mm-hmm.
there's when you have angels or you have advisors, that could go a lot of different ways. You could be paying them on compensation, they could do equity.
Yeah.
What are we thinking here?
Yeah, to be transparent, actually, some of them are not currently advising because this is an old slide. And we went through a program called Berkeley Skydeck. This
Okay.
is an accelerator from Berkeley University.
Uh huh.
And some of them are part of that accelerator
Okay.
advisorship
I got you.
program. So, but the top ones that you see, Plug and Play invested, And actually, the other lawyers that you see here invested as well. So they're both angels and advisors because
Okay.
they have an interest in giving advice, of course, to us.
Sure.
The others are currently, they were part of the Berkeley program. We are still in contact, but they're not currently advising. We have other advisors who are actually sign a contract, which we use the Founder Institute Advisorship Agreement. You may have heard of the FAST agreement.
Yeah.
Stands for this, Founder Advisory Simple Agreement, something like that. And we like that framework, and we are using it for a couple of advisors.
Okay, interesting. Because you never know when you see those slides, and I think one thing I didn't know you started a couple companies. I think a lot of early founders too, they don't really talk about beforehand what's in it for these advisors, and is there equity on the table? Is it going to be compensation? So just having clearly defined objectives with these people is really good. But the fact that they're invested, yeah, you know what I mean?
Correct. If you can see that, I put the reason why they're there.
Yeah.
Like one is sales, one is HR, one is a legal expert. So I think, as you said, what's the value for each advisor?
Right.
You don't want to have just, well, you can have advisor for names if they help you fundraise, but
Sure.
eventually they're not going to help you. Well, it depends. Maybe they can open doors in introduction. So ideally there should be a reason why you have an advisor.
Of course. Yeah, agreed. And some people too, they don't realize that you can have an advisor for a term limit. Like you don't have to have them till give them equity for the entirety of the company. You can do 6 months if you can negotiate.
Correct.
That. It's something out there, guys, that it's just something to think about. I think for first-time entrepreneurs, if you're in a new space, board members or advisors are fantastic because they're going to give you all this feedback that you otherwise wouldn't have. And plus the name thing you mentioned could be huge too in terms of having people backing you. Okay, so we're going to go to your forecasting, and then we're going to hit your roadmap. So in terms of forecasting, I see you got a slide here. We're going to put that on screen as well. Where do you kind of see the growth? I know investors like to see usually a 3-year plan, and I saw you got that about 3-year plan. What are we thinking here in terms of the forecasting? And I would be more curious on the users. How many users do you think you're gonna have over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so right now we are about 370 active users. Take into account an average contract value of 1K. We need at least 100 to get to 100 plus K ARR. So in order, let me open the calculations, because
Sure.
5-year plan is actually to be transparent, is something you do more of as an exercise to see if it's feasible, but it's not something that I look every day. I'm really more focused on the next milestone for the next 6, 12, 18 months.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't be obsessed with that long term. Absolutely.
But I think in my Google sheet here, I'm seeing in order to get to about 50 mil in sales in 5 years, just from direct sales, then we have partner sales, which is an additional 11 mil. So it's overall 60 something. We convert at a rate of 20%. So yeah, 3,800-ish, 3,800 paying customers. Average contract value is 14K.
Right.
Because again, I believe that now we start with 5K contracts, but it's going to increase with the mid-size market and enterprise.
Right. And then more trust in the marketplace. You're going to get bigger clients. That makes sense. The forecasting, like I said, typically the entrepreneurs that we are interviewing, a lot of them don't have any forecasting, and so I'm like, you have to have something. You have to show that you have some kind of plan, and you go, well, we can't accurately estimate in startup phase. It doesn't matter. You got to show that you're planning on this is what we're going to try to hit, right?
They want to see your mind and how you think about the future more than are you going to do it. That's a matter of getting to the next corner and being successful in the next turn. But eventually they want to know that you have the end game in mind.
That's right. I love that. That's great advice. So in terms of the marketing plan, and this is my favorite part of it, because as we know, there's no company without sales, right? There's no company without getting it out there. And we talked a little bit about the distribution, and we talked about sales. I'm more curious, and this is my biggest question, is for the actual allocation of the funds. I noticed, and the specifics on the runways we're probably not going to show on the screen, but we're heavy into, there's tons of people in this org. I mean, this is a very overhead heavy company. And I'm curious why, I know you got a lot of people in the sales and development department, but I see your percentage actually 31% of sales and marketing, and that's not including an actual marketing budget. Do you plan on like how do you plan on getting these people trained? Are these all going to be W-2 employees? I almost think the strategy in the very early stage is to go really intensive heavy on the sales and marketing. You've already established that you kind of got a base level product, but why does it seem like you're very heavy on the early stages in development rather than almost the sales and marketing and maybe even like a marketing budget for the company? I'm just curious on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think in the projections of our use of funds,
Right.
we estimated, I see here, a marketing associate, a sales SDR, account executive, and myself, of course,
Yeah, of
among the
course.
sales team, customer support. So that's pretty basic. For a SaaS company, it's pretty basic. Like you have one person for each function. Um, but it all depends through
It's just
our product market fit. Sorry.
no, it's like the thing about it is with your old raise, with the old like with the 3 million you were gonna raise, I think this is all feasible. I'm just looking at like you're looking to raise 500,000, and I mean,
Oh yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
No, no,
That's what I'm not
that's gonna.
understanding.
I agree with you. Yeah. So if I'm looking at, yeah, you're right. Actually, the 6 month 500. Actually, yeah. If we're just raising less, this slide doesn't make sense. I made
Yeah,
this slide in the big picture of the 3 million
I
raise,
got you.
but if you take only 500K, I think it's gonna be problem. I mean, it's actually 50% development,
Uh huh.
35% legal team, which is still development, and the rest 15% is going to be um, my salary and
Right.
operating costs and a growth hacker that helps me and customer support. So it's really like the sales team is mostly me at the beginning and
Yeah.
more on
It
marketing.
has to be.
uh, yeah
It has to be. And my recommendation, and again, I like to tell people, guys, I'm just a guy on the internet. You don't have to take any advice. We're just out here talking. But I what I recommend to even startups and what I would have done differently is allocate almost 60 to 75% in the early phase into the sales and marketing. And I like to give the example of liquid death water. The
Mm.
product is literally water. I mean, there is nothing unique about Liquid Death, the actual product, but the sales and marketing of it is fantastic, and that's how they're able to do that. Now, you're building a product where that I think is more unique than just water, like in that category, right? You're building something that's unique in a lot of different ways.
Mm.
But honestly, like before you actually start getting a lot of revenue coming in the door, the last thing I would like to see is there's all this overhead, and then you actually don't get the product out there like it should be because you didn't allocate enough resources to it. Now, I love the legal team. I think the legal team at 15%, that's different from a lot of entrepreneurs we're interviewing. They don't have like that. They're not protecting themselves for a lot of fallout, which is I think you're doing. Go ahead.
But sorry to interrupt you. The legal team is here is not to protect. Well, it's actually to the AI needs to be trained the AI. So they are actually building the product together with the development team.
Okay,
It's
I
not
got
really
you.
like
But you have to have these people, and it's not like they're an option.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the AI doesn't work without an expert matter,
Right.
and I know contracts, but we need real lawyers to train the models, and
Right.
that's why we have my partner, head of legal, and all the rest of the team helping me and to
Yeah.
make sure the tech part is working properly.
And I'm looking at your just the cost wise. Are you when let's say we do get funded tomorrow? I'm just giving an example. Is your plan to are these going to be like W-2s? Like I see your head of engineering, head of science. Are you W-2ing these guys employees, or are we making them contractors?
Actually, right now we're all consultants. So yes,
Consultants. I got you.
W2 I think is a W2, right? Consultant.
Yeah. So W-2 is like an employee. A 1099 is like a contractor.
Okay, so
Yeah.
1099, yeah.
Yeah.
So we are all 1099s basically. Until we raise a price round, we're gonna keep this according to our lawyer
I got you.
suggested us to be very flexible in terms of taxation as well. So
Yeah.
every person is responsible to declare
That's right.
taxes on their own.
That's right. And that my investor gave me the guy that invested in my company gave me great advice. Do not hire your W-2 employee until you absolutely have to, because 1099s there's so much less legal stuff you have to do. There's insurance, there's retirement, all this stuff that in startup mode you can't be worried about. Like these people,
Correct.
it's also they have a family to support, and you don't want to be they come on board and the company is out 3 months. So I think it's super smart that you're kind of going that contracting route, and I would say that as long as possible. I'm just again making sure that because again these numbers are based on the 3 million, so we do have that.
Yeah.
But like make sure because this is a thing. I think too there's a difference between sales and marketing. I think sales, really good salespeople are good on one-on-ones, and marketing is really brings kind of customers to you inbound through kind of what you're putting
Hmm.
out. So just, if marketing is your strong point, then utilize that. If not, hiring a marketing firm, the best one you can find as quick as possible. I think a lot of people go, that's a bad approach, but I don't agree at all. I think a lot of times there's a mismanagement of those funds because people think they know what they're doing and they don't. Again, you've done multiple startups, you know this probably. I'm just making sure, like, I would rather you get your product as much as possible and you have so many customers that you can't fulfill it with the product development side rather than reverse. Because you know what, if it's reverse, it's a really big problem, right?
That's a good point.
Really big
I really
problem.
like it. I see. Yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah. The pitch deck review, what I like to do is kind of ask what your ideal investor profile is. So I'd love to learn about who exactly are you targeting to invest your company? Who would be a great investor for you?
Cool. Thank you. So right now we are focusing on pre-seed angels. Ideally, are people who are strong in the network of um, legal enterprises, meaning that ALSP and alternative legal service providers can help us to partner with other companies in our space, such as CLMs, storage, and procurement software, which is and that's actually the end game if you want to create a very big company, a unicorn. Tap into the enterprise sales market.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say expert in the SaaS business and with good connections on the BODs of those companies would be great. But also people who really can provide feedback on the product and really
Okay.
understand the vision and for the future of law.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always great for your first candidate of investors is to target the people that would be, because sometimes too, I'll tell you this, sometimes it's not even the people that know a ton about the space, but it's fantastic mentors, or like we mentioned earlier, people with great names in that funding space. But of course, if you find someone who aligns with your mission and goals, I think it gives you kind of the best opportunity, and the relationship probably the most healthy when those are aligned.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's good. So now what I like to do here at the end is we kind of build a timeline to hit goals. So what are you shooting for in terms of the timeline for getting invested? Like when do you expect? What's the plan here?
So we're targeting 10K MRR by the end of the year, ideally
Okay.
by October, November. So the, the fundraise and the small check, which is 500K ish, should be coming in the next 2 months. So ideally before the start of the summer, but could be,
You said you said how much? 7 to
two, two, 2 months for the next, for the fundraising for the 500K.
okay.
Yeah.
I got it. 2 months. Okay.
So by the start of the summer, which is 21st of June,
Uh-huh.
ideally, end of June or mid July would be a good target for us.
That's good. And what are you doing today? Like, are you? I'm guessing meeting with investors every single day. Like, what are you doing? Actionable
Yeah,
steps,
there are a couple of activities I'm doing. Of course, is keeping a relationship with the current investor pool I have,
right?
and making sure that the warm ones are, the ones that could be the one to convert into this round. Second is outreaching to new investors, both events and through platforms like LinkedIn or through referrals from other entrepreneurs.
Sure.
That helps a lot. And the third thing is I'm considering a crowdfunding campaign potentially,
Okay.
to get more visibility and more customers as well.
Mm. So you're almost like a. Are we talking about like a Kickstarter, something like that?
I would say more like WeFounder, Republic,
Okay.
Start Engine, those companies.
Gotcha. Yeah, the Kickstarter is more the very baseline entry level stuff.
Also because, I mean, I nothing against Kickstarter. Actually, I launched a product there and it's great, but it's more for physical products. SaaS
Yeah,
companies, I've
agree.
I've done some research and it's not really good for in terms of conversion. So apparently, it's not the best place to. But I'm open to ideas if you know or any of the listeners know about any
Yeah, I'm
platform.
I'm trying to think of SaaS. Agreed. Kickstarter is really for inventory based businesses. Typically
Mm,
those do better. Like I said, you've launched on there. I would say your best bet, in my opinion, would be family offices or angels, especially at the what you're raising that amount, and the timeline because. When you go through the VC companies to actually get that check deposited in your bank account to use it can take a
takes
long,
time. Yeah,
yeah, it can take,
yeah,
right. So, an angel or a family office sometimes can cut you a check in a couple weeks,
true.
depending on who it is and how much they trust. So I think the family office, the angel route would probably be the best for you, like you said. But kind of what I like to say is I'll give like a quick, I guess you could say, doctors say like the medicine or maybe your prescription on what I think would be kind of best.
Hmm.
And I would say the biggest thing for you is the allocation because I do think you're going to get funded. I think you will get funded. I think
Hmm.
just based on the fact that you have a huge customer base, like you said, the success profile is huge. And if you're busting your ass every single day to get investor meetings and you're putting yourself out there with a really good deck, I think you get a really good chance. The thing that I could see that could be your biggest hindrance to growth is how you actually use the allocation of funds. I
Hmm.
really think considering using, and again, you have to be careful because you do need people for this. It's a big product. You're doing a lot with legal and all that,
Hmm.
but really making sure that a lot of that beginning money until you start really generating consistent recurring revenue per month is using it for marketing and to get
Hmm.
distribution. I don't even like to say the word marketing because it's very, people say marketing. What does that mean? What I mean is distribution. Getting your product in the face, in the hands, as many people as you can in front of your customers. That's where
Yeah.
I would love to see you actually use most of the money because you've built a product without a significant, amount of money. And if people are using it now and like it, my thing is you need to get that in the hands of more people when you start
Sure.
generating that revenue in the next 6, 7, 8 months when you're in the year and you're doing what you expect. Then we start, all right, now we can kind of reinvest more into the product. But I just think the biggest hindrance in startups and the biggest failure is they don't think about the distribution. And I'm all about product. I love a good product, but you have a working product, which is better than most. So use that to
Hmm.
be transparent with your customers. I think you tell them, hey, you're growing with us. We really appreciate being along here. We are trying to make this a success. How we ensure that is we are going to get in the hands of as many customers as possible. I can even send like an email to all your customers what your plan is. Trying to get in the hands of as many customers as possible. By the beginning of next year, we're going to start really improving the product, and these are kind of what we're hitting. I just think that going too much into the product development side, especially in that initial funding, could be a potential mistake. But again, that's just my opinion. You might choose to do whatever, but
I agree. I mean, distribution is key. Go to market, understanding who is
yeah,
your channel. What's your
absolutely,
channel and double down on that, I think is key. So I totally agree on that.
yeah, well, absolutely, man. Well,
Thank you, AC.
do you have any closing thoughts for the audience or anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, if you have any ideas on, how to take the product we have to the next level in terms of go to market or any idea, as you said, like distribution is key. So any creative solution or idea there, more appreciated. And of course, if you want to try it out, happy to give you some free credits to the listeners of this podcast.
Yeah,
And I'm looking forward to maybe coming back and after applying your feedback and suggestions and tell you
yeah.
how it went, with those.
I would absolutely love to have you back on. What I've told some of our previous guests is we're going to do a follow up call in 3 or 4 months when you're further along and kind of see what worked, where didn't, some of the things you learned,
Yeah.
and just so everybody can kind of learn from this experience.
Thank you so much, Jesse. I really appreciate your full questions and feedback.
Absolutely, man. It was a great time, dude. And if you have any questions, just comment in Discord, and we'll stay in the loop, keep in touch, and just keep me updated how it's going. Okay.
We'll do it. High five. Cheers.
All right. Take care, man. Have a blessed
Thanks.
day.
Thank you. Thank you,
All right,
everyone.
bye.